I've said this before, and I think it warrants kind of saying again, and that's the fact that the best parts of E3 and Gamescom aren't the actual shows themselves. Obviously, it's pretty clear that Gamescom wasn't a huge thing from Microsoft. They did an Inside Xbox, not exactly a Gamescom press conference. Now, they did do a huge press conference at E3, which was great. But what I really like as a content creator is all the interviews that they go through and that happen post-conference and post those shows, because that's where you get all the juicy information. Yeah, it's cool hearing about the games and things like that, but at the end of the day, I think it's really, really cool, and as a content creator, I love hearing when they start talking about the future of Xbox and the future games and what their plans are and things like that. I think that is where all the difference comes in, and that's where I'm very excited for in terms of what Microsoft is doing, and hopefully they continue that route. And Phil Spencer just did a one heck of an interview, and I will link this so you guys can check it out. It comes courtesy of CNET. And they were talking to him about many, many big things. Basically, he was talking about how this is a question about how Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer weren't convinced about Xbox, right? And this was an interesting story. The company, and almost all things we do as an enterprise company, we've had a couple consumer businesses. Gaming is one that Bill started. To his credit, and Steve originally greenlit Xbox. The analogy I use with some people is we were like a garage band for a long time. As long as we didn't play our music too loud, we're allowed to keep practicing. And now we've moved more into the mainstream. But for the first time, but for that time, when we were a garage band, Bill and Steve were like, as long as we're not messing things up and we continue to make progress, things were good. Bill's been incredibly involved in what we're doing, and I see Steve every so often, and he asks how Xbox is doing and how things are doing. And like he said, Satya Nadella is leaning in this area as being incredibly supportive. It's an awesome opportunity for him. So that's really cool. It's really cool to hear them talk about the gaming side of things. So imagine you're an Xbox user, a normal Xbox user. What doesn't Xbox have that you want? He says, I've been explicit that we needed to up our investment in our first-party studios. And at E3, we announced the addition of 5 new studios. I don't think we're done. People want to play games on our platform, great games. What I look at now is this opportunity where 200 to 250 million people will buy a console. Whether it's from us or Sony or Nintendo or even something else out there that could be coming to the 2 billion people who play video games. And I say, how can we enable that great content and stories that I see happening on my television screen or my PC, laptop to reach every screen in the world? Look at television. I think we're at an interesting time with new business models, and I think about building some of the most creative and engrossing content we've seen from companies like Netflix, HBO, and Showtime. That content gets consumed on all kinds of screens, but it's designed for a large screen on the wall. We have great stories, characters, and worlds in gaming that have been locked to certain screens because of the technical capabilities that you need to see that content. And we've really taken this view of how can we get these characters reach more people on the planet. So not only are they talking about streaming, but other things as well. So when asked if they're talking about streaming, he says, is one output. If you go back a few years, we made the decision that when you buy one of our console games, we give you the ability to play it on PC. At the same time, because it was, hey, if you bought Gears of War from us and you want to play it on your PC, great, go play. You should experience the world on any device that you want to play. And then you say, okay, there's all these phones out there. How do I make those phones accessible? Is streaming a way of doing that? I've said that streaming is something that we're investing in. And there's the complexity of the content. One of the things I've loved and the games industry has really embraced is how do we build games for all kinds of players? You can look at something like what Telltale Games does and build really narrative-driven stories based games. And I look at what Nintendo does, and they bring family-friendly games as well. It's creating new forms of entertainment, new games, new experiences for people to play alone or together. So he's talking about single-player games and how, for the first time, Microsoft has really embraced Xbox as a platform. So the Xbox has always been a gaming platform. Where do they see the potential beyond that? He says they always start with the players. They think about the 2 billion people on the planet play video games. Some of them on console, some of them on our console, some of them on PC, a lot of them on phones. If we put the player at the center of every decision we make, let's give people access to the games they want to play with the people in the community they want to play with on whatever device they choose to play on. I think the opportunity for Xbox as an ecosystem, as a community, and as a set of games is tremendous. This was a really great interview from Phil. He says that he wants Xbox to be the voice of consumers inside Microsoft. So that's really cool. I like seeing that. I think that that's something that they've really kind of explored, and I'm excited to see what happens. Like I said, I will link this. Check it out. Crapgamer, thanks for watching. Rack 'em up. Out.